Oh my goodness, everyone. It's another brand new episode of Because Cannabis every single Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe. Every Thursday, where you listen to audio podcast, easy for me to say, where you listen to your audio podcast, Spotify. We definitely prefer you check us out. Give us a follow on Spotify. We have video podcast on Spotify, Dustin. You can see us. Literally, go to Spotify. I think they still got like Meghan and Prince Harry's got video podcast. Joe Rogan has got video podcast. Your boys, BC Wayman and Dustin Kava, also have video podcasts. We're the same, us and them. Famous podcasters talking about the niche that we love to talk about. My name is BC Wayman. That is Dustin Kava. And the other side of the video that you're watching. How you doing today, Dustin?
I'm amazing today. I'm in a new location temporarily. We'll just say I lost my keys, so we are at a different studio today.
See, that's how we get. I'm on location today in a special reserved spot. I got a special grow house going on. You don't say I left my keys in the car, so I'm stuck at my partner's house. That's not how it's supposed to go. But that, folks, is real life. Speaking of real life, Dustin, we're about it, the eve of the hollow, as they say. It is almost the spookiest. I guess we're technically in the spookiest time of the year, but we are on the precipice of Halloween, the precipice of Devil's Night, the precipice of Beggar's Night, the precipice of all things spooky and celebratory in October. It is also time, Dustin, for us as parents. I got kids, you got kids, you probably listening right now. Yes, you have some children out there and you're about to do something. When they go around to those houses, when you stand on the street and shush them up and go to the house by yourselves while I stand out here, I'm not opening the door with you. And they ring that doorbell, ding-a-ling dong, and they say trick or treat, hopefully. It's weird, by the way. Do you as a parent, do you get on your kid's case when they don't say trick or treat? Are you a man?
Of course I do. I can't stand it. It is like, I'll take this fucking candy right back from them. I'll be like, that one ain't yours. Like, this is not just a handout. The least you could do is say the simple 3-word phrase. You got
say
this,
the trick
buddy.
or treat, people.
You got this.
That may be all well and good. Here's the best part of trick or treat, Dustin. You get home. There's actually, and I'll get to the cannabis side of this in a minute. It's the big scare. All the weed heads giving away their weed. They're not. We're coming up to Halloween. You got the big bag of candy that's sitting there in the bowl. You go through it for safety measures because in the 80s, they ran a fear campaign. And now you believe that every Snickers bite size is filled with razor blades and gasoline. So you go through them. You look for a tear. And by the way, if it has a tear, that just means it's automatically mine. I take my chances, people, with the cyanide and with the rat poison. You will not scare me. I will eat that mounds all day long. I don't care if it's got a tear in it. That's how I live. La vida loca, people. So you tear it apart. You go through the bag. You got this pile. Do you, Dustin Kava, have a candy choice? Mine's Payday. It's also Almond Joy and Butterfinger. So I got 3. That when it's in the pile, it's an automatically yours. No questions asked. Kids can't have it. You don't even get one. Like, I get all the Butterfingers. I get all the Paydays. And I don't feel shame about it in the slightest.
To be honest, man, I think Skittles is it. They know that every pack of Skittles gets set aside, and the flavored Tootsie Rolls, that shit is where I'm at. Oh, I love it. I love it. But yeah,
I eat Tootsie Rolls one time a year, and it's right now. Like, literally, this weekend is the only weekend that I think I eat Tootsie Rolls in a calendar year. But I will eat.
Dude, it's like the vanilla and orange ones, man. Anyone that's a colored one, that's the one I'm like, nope. So I'm like, they just know it's not part. That bag will be less by the time they get home because I'm taking them all.
What gets left? What is left, no matter you or the children or anyone else in the house, when at the end of the year
with coconut. You said mounds, and I just had to laugh. I was like, bullshit.
I love a good mounds and Almond Joy.
Mounds. No one goes for the mounds as the first thing they pick. Your kid's probably like, okay, no, Dad, don't take the mounds. Like, trying to pretend like it's really, matters to him. No one's seeking out the mounds. That's insane.
No one is. I love a mound. What is wrong? You know what's funny? Mounds, if we're going to get very, very real, let's pull back the curtain here. Mounds is only good in the bite size. Like, when it's a full size mounds, it's a little too much, looks like dog poop, and doesn't taste great. When you got just a bite size mounds or a bite size Almond Joy, in particular the Almond Joy, you give me that coconut, rest one, like one particular, almond. and then coat that sucker with a little milk chocolate. Thumbs up emoji right there.
I feel like you got to be giving up on life if that is it. If you hit that spot and you're like the almond joy is where I'm just like, you gave up, dude. It's over for you. There's
you know what
nowhere
I
to
want?
go
I
but
want some
up from here.
not enough infused coconut foods in the world of cannabis. That's all I'm saying. Like, I got a big question. We have to ask our guests. We got Nikki Lawley on here. We're going to talk Nikki and the plant. We're going to talk all that stuff soon. Here's the question, Nikki, right now. Right now, there is a headline on the internet. If you type it in, the big scare that all these cannabis folks are going to douse your children and give them away all their candy. There is no, I don't even want to say responsible. There is no irresponsible cannabis user who is forsaking their cannabis and giving it away for free to children. That's the biggest farce when it comes to that scary headline. I am more likely to find razor blades in every piece of candy than to find one free medicated or infused product, because no responsible or irresponsible weed head is giving up their candy on Halloween. True or false, Nikki?
Absolutely true. I mean, can I just say I paid $50 for a bag of edibles? You really think that's going in Junior's bag? Hell
Yes.
no.
Exactly. It is but now my Tylenol bottle, I'll always check and make sure the cotton's still in there. That's one I can never trust.
Ooh, that's an interesting thing. All right, let's break this down. Now, you go through in a medicinal world, Nikki. Welcome, Nikki and the Lawley, NikkiandthePlant.org. We'll get into your story here in just a few moments. When you go to where Dustin and I live, Nikki, in Ohio, when we go to the dispensary, the medical dispensary, there's a whole process that they walk you through your product. They make you look at it. They inspect it. They have this whole checklist. In an adult use facility, I don't believe they're as picky on those things. And so, point being, when you get a product and it's got a little bit of damage or openness or things like that, I'm still going to eat it, right? Like in the dispensary world, I'm not worried about whatever else might have gotten in there. If there's a little tear, I'm like, I'm going for it, right? Is that just me? Am I got no standards? What's up?
I think you're spot on. I mean, especially with cannabis, like, am I really gonna like complain that my jar might have a little chip on it or something like that? I don't think so. I'm going to still utilize that.
You know what's funny,
have
though?
you ever complained? Have you ever, was there ever a moment in the dispensary where you truly were like, this is wrong, and then had an avenue to actually call and get it worked out?
So this nameless organization that's an MSO in New York State shared at my traditional dispensary. I go to the Botanist. I'm a big Botanist supporter, and you guys have those in Ohio. So shout out to the Botanist. Go Botanist. And
BC is a big advocate of the Botanist as well.
Yeah, I got my little, here it is, right here. Shout out to the Botanist. Look at my little mini speaker. Speaking of trade shows. Yeah, right. It's I'm gonna be super real though. Not great sound. It's a little tinny. It's a little tinny on the free speaker Botanist. I'm gonna get picky. I'm like one of those choosers. I'm choosing. I'm a beggar who is now chooser. All right, Nikki, go ahead. You're at the No Name Dispensary, not the Botanist.
Not the Botanist. Not the Botanist. Botanist. What the hell? But I got the product at the Botanist. And so said other dispensary, I opened the product up, and BC and Dustin, I mean, I know you guys know your cannabis, so I can tell you this without a doubt. You've never seen cannabis that looked this bad. There was zero smell. I'm not talking a little bit of hint of smell. I'm talking none. I'm talking
the brown frown.
Was literally like almost orange / your beard color, Dustin, and like decarved, right? Like it literally looked decarved. And I am like, this is not $75 worth of medical cannabis. So I called up said manufacturer in New York State, and the guy's like, well, I don't know what happened. And I said, you irritated the shit out of it is what happened. And why did we have to irritate it in the first place? What was on it that was so bad? We had to go remediate our cannabis. And the guy is like, oh, well, we don't use that. I'm like, bro, come on.
Come on. Yeah, it's either that or the guy was vaping it in the back alley and then just refilled it in the bag after he was done vaping it. It was like, come on.
Come on. So said dispensary or said manufacturer said, yeah, there's nothing we can do. You don't live in our delivery area, so there's nothing we can do. You should call the botanist back. And I said, they didn't make the product. It's your product. It's your product that I'm having a problem with. I spent $75 on medicine that I budgeted. Can I just say
Yes.
right here and right now, medical patients are legit shit. The best investment a MSO, a rec dispensary, anyone can invest in. Why? We know quality. We know packaging. We know how to set up your dispensary in a way that it makes it eye appealing. We understand formulating. We understand so many more things than the average Joe Blow that's coming from the CPG industry. It's
Yep.
insane. So anyway, sorry for that little soapbox, but I'm really passionate about that because I just don't feel we have seats at the table. I feel like, they make all these stupid ass laws that have absolutely no relevance to medical cannabis whatsoever, but some political human said we got to put this in the law, and now that's law. Without
I
the
always felt the same way as owning a head shop before medical, before adult use. And it was this thing of like, we are the ones who initiate all new devices, do all testing, are the biggest advocates to any customer or any person ever using it. We are training everybody how to speak, why something's important, how the process should go. What is it type? What ailments could it possibly help you with? And it was this whole thing. And then patients come around, and I felt like they always find a way to kind of think that they're up here because of, I don't know if it's the capital or it's someone else has given them the authority to say that they just know all. But I always felt like the ones that mattered in the industry always end up having the least amount of voice throughout it. And it's a hard thing to take. Even in Ohio, I remember having an issue with a product from a dispensary here. And when I called them, they were like, "Oh, no, 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 we can't do anything. You need to take it up with the board of pharmacy with Ohio." And they're like, and you call them and they're like, "What are we going to do? Give you more days on your thing? Like, what exactly? We're never going to refund it. We're never going to give you more product. We're never going to call the company. We're never anything. Just smoke it, you idiot." And it was like, what the hell? It
You're not allowed
really,
to smoke in
it's
Ohio, though.
heartbreaking
Yeah,
in a
it's
lot
right.
of ways.
Yeah.
And medical patients are usually on a fixed budget. They absolutely are budgeting. I mean, they are planning for next month 30 days in advance, and they're choosing certain things over to get their medicine. They're saying, "I'm not going to go to the movies or have dinner with my family this night this week because I need that money for my medicine later on." And so we're very loyal, we're very educated, and we're very vocal about it because there's so much on the line when something doesn't work out. So I 100% I get it with you. You have every right to be like, "No, no, no. This is one, I'm so educated I can tell you what you fucking did wrong. But two, why how can you even look me or hear me on the phone and tell me anything else?" Like it's
I
hard.
mean, it was really bad product. I mean, it was not. I mean, I took pictures of that shit, right? And I compared it to said dispensary that had good product and said dispensary that had really bad product, and no one could believe it. I took it to an event I was speaking at.
Could you imagine? You are really throwing them under the bus. You're
But I
on
didn't say
stage
the name
as
of
a
the
speaker, and you're
product.
like, "Oh,
I
by the
didn't
way,
say the
look at
name of
this
the product.
brown frown. Look at it. We're good." Oh, I love it. I love it. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
I just can't help it though. I mean, it's sort of like in New York State, the whole aspergillus controversy. I am not a microbiologist. I am not someone that works for the CDC that can tell you what potency of cannabis, if it gets aspergillus, is going to turn into aspergillosis and kill an old lady. I don't know that information. But what I can tell you is if our medical program in New York State has a plus or minus 5% variance of acceptability, meaning for heavy metals, pesticides, whatever, terpenes, plus or minus 5%. In our adult use, we have a plus or minus 25%.
Yes, that is so
Hold on a second.
insane.
Hold on a second. It's a 25% variance. So in theory, it could be like 25% or 24% heavy metals and still pass.
Yes.
In theory,
but
yes.
it can be off within a 25%. I feel like they have technical equipment in this day and age that can
Okay,
predict all these
but
things.
here's
Like I've
the
seen enough
reason they did
cannabis
it.
testing. That's ridiculous.
Here's why they did it though. So we have 264 some odd distressed farmers that went from the hemp market into the adult use market. So now they can grow actual flower instead of industrial hemp. And it could only be grown outdoors that first year. So they're still sitting on product from last year. It would never pass any kind of testing to be able to go on the shelf. And that's not the farmer's fault. That is not, I mean, I could take 5 shows and tell you all the messed up things. But that's not what this is all about. I'm just saying, you know, I got issues with that. We're not testing for aspergillosis or aspergillus on our outdoor cannabis because it's so common. Okay, but the medical guy, that's not thrown out of his thing, and
Yeah.
he still feels 5% max plus E minus is where they want to have their quality control standard. I don't know, man. I just feel more comfortable purchasing in the medical market. And I love my small farmers, right? Like I am so community based and so community focused and it's not their fault. But they've like been given an impossible problem, And again, this year and next year when they can start growing indoors, that's going to change. But, I live in Buffalo, man. Like New York. New York has some of the worst weather ever. It's humid, it's gross in the summer. So I mean, you got bud rot, you got powdery mildew, you got all kinds of issues just doing everything right. So I experienced that this year. Thank you. Yeah.
We are talking with Nikki Lawley, Nikki and the Plant. Nikki, you are you say yourself, you're a patient advocate, you're a speaker, founder of nikkiandtheplant.org. You can find the links to nikkiandtheplant.org. We'll also have some of the other things that you're talking about and celebrating, canmar.io and cannabisbpo.com. Those links, as well as Nikki and the Plant social media links, will be in the comments below. So, Nikki, you are someone who I think you're similar to myself in a way, coming to cannabis later in life. Though you came through it for different reasons. I think you've told your story a lot, and I don't know if we need to go through all of that. You can find a ton about Nikki's story at nikkiandtheplant.org, but essentially having a traumatic brain injury, working in traditional medicine, and then realizing after years and stuff of doctor's visits, that's how you kind of, came to cannabis as a therapeutic and medicinal kind of mechanism. Is that a pretty decent summarization?
A great summarization. Over 50 drugs, over 60 doctors, and at one point taking 16 pills, and then to basically be off all of them with the exception of the thyroid and cholesterol. That's a big win, and that's because of the plant. I was ready to take my life at the Cosmopolitan Hotel in January of 2017. I was ready
And
to
we're
go
coming up at 7 years since the
7
last
years.
since
It
your
is 7
instance,
years.
right? Last
Yes.
week was 7 years.
So January of 2017, I see a billboard as I'm ready to Peter Pan over the balcony. Unfortunately, I was on the 7th floor, or fortunately. And so the 3 floors below was the pool. So, I mean, I wasn't even going to be able to kill myself right. Like I was feeling pretty wasted, useless and of no purpose whatsoever. And I'm like, well, that's just perfect. It's not even going to work. You
Oh,
finally get the courage. So then a billboard at that exact time came driving by Las Vegas Boulevard, down Las Vegas Boulevard, saying, get your medical marijuana card in Nevada today. I laughed at that billboard, BC and Dustin. Why? Because it was so preposterous and ridiculous that came by at that moment. Because all I saw was Nancy Reagan just say no.
yeah, right.
And your brain on drugs, the frying egg in the pan. I
Yes.
mean, like that image came over my face at that moment that billboard came by. And I like laughed at it. I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. Then my husband came in the room and he's like, what's going on? And I mean, he sees me on top of a chair. Like, I mean, I obviously was
Yes.
going to fandangle some stuff, but I'm like, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, we can get my medical weed card in Nevada today. And at this point, I had not left the hotel room in 4 days. I had not like done anything. I was a shell of the human, like literally in the corner crying and shit. I went and got my card that day, went to my first dispensary that day. I ended up taking so many gummies because there was absolutely zero instruction. And I ate packages of gummies, but later in life, we learned why I didn't like wind up greening out. I just slept for like 18 hours. And then after that 18 hours, I still had 2 joints left from my purchase at the dispensary. And my husband's like, "You can't take that home. You gotta smoke it." He's like, "We're not wasting $20 on joints." And so I'm like, I didn't really want to smoke and I just wanted to go back to bed and sleep more, but I couldn't because we had to leave the room. So he's like, "Just smoke them." So I go smoke the joint, and I, for the first time, left the hotel room willingly, went and ate breakfast, interacted with other humans. It was that kind of transformation that made my story kind of go pretty far. I mean, it happened in a second. It was a fluke injury. It can happen to any one of us. And I had to learn how to live a whole new life, how to become a whole new person, how to be the nurse with the respected colleague of the doctor to now being the patient, and a patient that no longer gets that professional courtesy, no longer is credible anymore. Like when I'm ordering tests or suggesting different drugs or saying, have we checked this out? I'm like a hypochondriac. I'm a crazy
Yeah.
person. Like I know too much. I'm malingering. I'm faking the system. Are you kidding me? Who wants to fake workers' compensation? Who wants to
Yeah,
fake
40 doctor visits. I
right?
have to, like what a
Go to the
nightmare.
doctor
Just
every other day. Every other day. You had to go see a specialist, a doctor, a therapist, a this, a that. It's exhausting being a patient. So learning that flip of the sides, I then began to get this incredible empathy for other people, like normal people that don't have a healthcare background. Look, who the hell is going to help them? Who is going to like show them that you have a voice, and you don't, just because the doctor prescribes it doesn't mean you have to take it blindly. I'm not suggesting anyone not listen to their doctor, but I'm saying as you have to become your own advocate. You have to use your voice and learn whatever you can about the condition you have, because that guy spends 10 minutes with you, 7 if you're lucky. But at the end of the day, those 7 minutes are not the whole story of your life. So being your own advocate is really kind of what my message has turned into. And I mean, I'm a hell of a brand ambassador. And so one of the cool things that I'm doing is going back to the scene of the crime of Las Vegas. I'm going to be a brand ambassador for this new cool app called Canmar. I'm going to MJ BizCon. Yeah, go MJ BizCon.
All right, tell us. I got to talk to you about MJ BizCon because I might go this year, and I'm a nervous fellow when it comes to trade shows and things. So hold that thought for a second. Tell us a little bit about Canmar, canmar.io. You'll find the link in the comments below. Tell us what Canmar is, what's it doing, why we need this app. There's a lot of apps out there. So what does
Oh my
Canmar do, and what separates it?
So Canmar, what's cool about it, it's actually a community-based cannabis and psychedelic platform that actually is sort of like the weed of LinkedIn. So, I don't know about you guys, but I am a career shadow banned human on everything on Insta, everything on I get my account restricted for weeks at a time. I mean, literally, it's brutally bad. So, what's cool about this app is that is no longer the problem, guys. They actually allow it, they welcome it, they want cannabis hashtags. You will not be banned for posting weed on this app. So that's what excited me. But what excited me more is you can have like micro communities in the community. So, like in New York, it is such a CF, as we've talked about. And literally, I want to have like as many New York growers that I can make a micro growers group. I can make a micro retail group because people are not talking. Okay. In this community of cannabis, we have suits and we have legacy and we have those in between, and nobody is talking to each other. So, like, everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel. Imagine if you just work together and say, okay, there's now 15 of us growers. We want the best price on this packaging. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's just so why we don't have to agree on everything to be part of the same thing, if that makes any sense. I mean, at the end of the day, supporting each other is so much more important than anything you can do. And that's how we build a community. But garbage in equals garbage out. So if like I'm promoting this community and it's really great, and I mean, all I'm doing is sharing like your podcast and sharing this podcast that I've been on, like doing all that, people are going to get sick of it, right? Because no one else is contributing, no one else is participating. So if you don't participate, it's only going to be as good as you make it. So that's kind of the message I'm trying to take too. Like, don't just sign up so that I look good, because they are sponsoring me a little bit. So that's not what it's about. It's about let's build the community together and let's do what we have to do so that we can all support. So that's why I like the app.
Well, I'm excited to check it out. I do not know as much about it. I'm on the canmar.io website right now as Nikki is talking from nikkiandtheplant.org. Once again, go to canmar.io, find the link below, check it out. It looks pretty cool. They not only have community, you have education on here, you have some jobs such as well. So it seems to be like it's working to become a very social hub is a term they use, but yeah, social hub of the different worlds of cannabis, which can be a bit. Dustin and I have that conversation a lot. There is a lot of separation in this industry. You're either a plant guy or let's use the gender, you're either a plant person or a business person, but it's that middle ground, right? No one seems to kind of want to tiptoe and walk into that. Right. And I think that's where Dustin and I fit. We're in that same boat, Dustin. We talk to advocates, we talk to plant people, we talk to business folks, we talk to just people who smoke weed all day. Like we talk to different folks because they're all around, literally the name of the show. But they do what they do because of the plant, because of cannabis.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Canmar.io. That'll be good. I hope it takes off. I mean, it's hard sometimes. This is what's interesting. Let me ask you this, Nikki, before we talk MJ BizCon, where it's going to be a slew of people pitching their thing. Do you worry sometimes about, I guess, saturation, like all these new products and all these new things? Like, do we need the new stuff all the time? Everyone's got a new hook all the time. Do you love it? Do you get frustrated? What's it like for you?
And the plant, it's very frustrating because I feel like you have to almost resell yourself to every single person you meet. Like there's not that respect or that level of knowledge. I mean, when you guys talk to me, I feel probably learned something. Like even if it was just laws. I don't have
hands down.
I'm not like, the god of cannabis, but I literally have so much exposure from a North American perspective. And I know the laws in the different states. I mean, can I recite everyone? Absolutely not. Let's not get ridiculous.
No, but you also know where to find the information. And that is just as much as important to know. You don't have to know everything. You just know how to know everything, how to find.
But we have a community of lots of people like me, like you guys. And when we have all these new little islands springing up, what's happening is we're no longer a collective of one. We're independent islands, sort of like the United States with its ununited cannabis policies across the states, meaning we have our own little island and we're just so protective of our little community. But at the end of the day, that little community now is being isolated. It's like taking your public school kid and homeschooling them. You're not giving exposure to all things. I'm not saying like BS things. I'm saying that you need exposure from different levels of the plant. Like some people are going to get super turned on by marketing of the plant. Others are going to be turned on by growing it. Others want to like distribute it and sell it. And, others just want to smoke it. And that's okay. There's no judgment. Whatever you do, you. But I feel like there's a lot. I feel like we're almost creating more diversity, or not diversity in a good way, but more animosity.
Like separation. No, we are. You're very right. We've siloed, not we, but the industry has enjoyed, because for a while, I think the industry growing up, you had to have these kind of strong silos that separated it from some stereotypes and misconceptions. You had to have the overly business side to be like, hey, we're not a bunch of stoners here. We're doing stuff, and the testers. So you had to have that. But what has happened, and it's really, I'm learning this right now as I'm talking to you, Nikki Lawley from NikkiandthePlant.org. There is these separate little islands, and there's barely like an Indiana Jones rope bridge connecting them. Like it is suspect at best to get across this rope. Like at any moment, it's perilous, and there's non-high alligators down at the bottom doing their alligator thing. But it feels like there's these islands, and they're connected. There is a thread, but it is thin. And when people just get frustrated, it snips quickly, and then you're just floating and you're on your own. And
But
I think that is that gap. How do you
money.
bring them together?
Like you can't raise money that way. When we're all disjointed, we're all fighting for the same dollars. Americans for Safe Access is a perfect example. I love that organization. Why? They are literally in my mind, the only patient focused organization that cares more about patients than profits. And I don't mean profits are a bad word, because they're not. It's how we have to create an ecosystem that sustains itself, and that involves profits. But Americans for Safe Access, they have some of the best reports that you could ever get. The state of the states being one of them. Every year, it literally breaks out each state and tells you what that island is saying about the law, how many medical patients they have, where they're at with adult use. And they give a scoring system. There's like the scoring rubric. Anyway, I love Americans for Safe Access, and I send a lot of people there for information. But as a member of Americans for Safe Access, as the chair for the New York State Advisory Board for Americans for Safe Access, that side note has not done very well. But being part of that really showed me how difficult it is to fundraise. Like I can't get people to give me money. Why? Because they gave it to the Last Prisoner Project. Why? Because they gave it to 40 Times. Why? And there's so much overlap in so many similar organizations. I just feel like we would be so much stronger together, finding a way to collaborate and build a bigger organization and make it so that it's inclusive of the minorities, of the justice impacted, of the women, of the LGBTQ, like encompassing all the people and in all the specialties. I mean, am I trying to be a little kumbaya? Yeah, I really am. But isn't that what this plant's for? I mean,
I was going to say, isn't that the whole point behind some of this? Isn't that
I
what the
also
plant's
think
supposed
that,
to do?
well, and it's not like all these other guys aren't fucking struggling in the same boat. You like they may have the facade that everything is awesome, that the clients are there and that they're making payroll and that this and that, but at the end of the day, they are truly struggling right now. And so to not have that wake up call of it's stronger together. We're going to go further together, than going fast alone. It's a weird notion of this like facade. And so you're absolutely right. I think you have it's crazy when you hear it because it's just not being done. But when you really step back and think about it, you're like, of course that makes sense. Of course that's the way it should be. And there is a lot of lost dollars that even just how about exactly what you said. We're lost, whether they're prior donations or on other business fails when they thought the low hanging fruit was still viable. And so I don't know. You make a lot of great points when you're at MJ, which I really want to break down into that. Like, I've been to MJ times, and the first out of the 3 or 4 years that I've gone, I think the first year or two, I didn't actually go into the convention. We spent a lot of the time doing the work at all the after parties where it was a much easier time to kind of have these conversations, and it could be a little bit more long form. It wasn't this 3.5 minute spiel where you heard the guy saying it to the other guy he left to go to the table next to him. Like you're hearing all of the repetition. And so there's a lot of that where it gets drowned out for me. But the after parties are very, very intimate, and you can step aside into the corner of the party and have a drink with someone and really pick their brain or inquire about the state of certain things. And then I also think about, there was a lot of times where I got more standing outside the convention and never going in, just literally being at the entrance door where all 10,000 people are walking into. And the way the conversations were brought up, the way people would walk up to you and kind of communicate, still to this day, we have clients that were gotten that way that we work with every single month. And so, and then actually going into the show almost was overwhelming in certain regards. There just is so many floors and so many people telling you that they have something proprietary better than the guy next to them. And I can't keep track of how many different amazing innovations that all 10,000 people there have. It gets drowned.
Yes. And all of those things that you said are 100% true. I've been in 2018. I skipped 2019. Then, of course, we had COVID. Then I went 21, 22, and this will be 23. And everyone kind of knows who I am, which is very humbling and overwhelming at the same time. It's so humbling, but do you have any idea how stupid I feel when I have absolutely no idea what their name is, what they do? Because what happens with a brain injury, with my particular brain injury, I don't remember faces. I remember what you're wearing. So when you change what you're wearing, even if I saw you last night and we smoked for 3 hours, that doesn't mean I'm going to know who you are today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always just do. Yeah, you just got to blame it on the weed too. That's where I'm always. I'm like, come on, I smoke a lot of cannabis. What am I? How am I going to remember all these
It's
details?
really not. This is not from the smoking too much weed. This is literally like
From your absolutely, yeah.
So I literally, I live outside the event. Last year, okay, so imagine you have literally people running up to you, hugging you. Oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. And they don't tell you who they are, and they might have a name badge, they might not, and you are absolutely clueless. I mean, dudes do this to me. They pick me up and shit. Like I don't
so much, fellas. Don't pick up Nikki. It's rude. Don't be picking up people you don't know.
And so then, I try and figure out very classily, like suave, like, oh yeah, how you doing? Please tell me who you are in some way, because I just and I can't live in the moment because I'm in panic Rolodex mode. Like nobody up and hug you like for 5 minutes if they don't know you, like, so I got to know this human, but I have no idea who they are. So that's a big problem for me, right? So one of the things I thought about was having like a media assistant literally follow me around MJ Biz, take those pictures, get their contact, and then, have a system so that I can remember who's who and shit like that, because I cannot walk down even one row of MJ BizCon. Last year, so I spent $500 to go stand on the patio for 2 days. I spent $500 to stand on the patio for 2 days because I couldn't walk down one single row without half of the people from either from booths or from the spectators just running up to me. And so in an effort to not only detract from other people's shows, I have offered, like, that's probably exactly what's going to happen this year too, is because it's so overwhelming. And at the end of the day, I still got a brain injury. It's managed and it's great, but it still has some deficits that I'm very aware of that have to be dealt with. So instead of bitching about it, find a solution for it. And that's kind of what I've done this year. So I have the girl coming.
Oh yeah, go on. Sorry, I didn't mean.
Go ahead.
No, I really wish I cut you off there, and I feel like the biggest asshole. Because you were just about to answer my question, which was, how do you, when you're about to get there, how do you plan? I always told myself the only reason I'm going to fly out to MJ is if I have at least 3 meetings scheduled for while I'm there. There has to be something else besides I'm just walking into the show and I'm just going to walk around. When you walk around with no plan, you just walk around overwhelmed. But when you know this person I need to talk to at 10:30, this guy I got to talk to at dinner tonight at 5, it presents me with something to work through, and then other things can happen and get piled on in the in-betweens. But what do you suggest for someone who it really is their first time walking into that scenario and they want to feel like they are getting the money out of it. We get press passes, so I don't have to spend the money. And that presents a total different dichotomy of my value perception of what I need to do at that place. But I have spent the $500 and $1,000, $800 with them in the past, and didn't feel like I accomplished $800 worth of anything. I could, so what kind of advice do you give for someone walking into that standpoint?
I am not a perfect trade show walker because like I said, what just happened. So, but my advice to someone is actually to find a mentor. Find a mentor that's a veteran trade show person that can, again, they don't have to be your best friend, but maybe they're really good at, talking to people and making small talk and stuff like that. And, after my 20th booth, I'm like, but I might have seen that guy in booth 2 because he was chatting over there. But I'm not like, I might remember that because it's the same clothes, but really it's a thing. So you have to plan, you have to map, you have to know what your strengths are and what your partner's strengths are. So if you're like Susie Chatty and love to take your Instagram pics and shit like that, then you be responsible for grabbing the cards and the pictures. And the other one is Chatty Cathy. So she chats it up and introduces yourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
build a system, do a buddy system, work together. I mean, you'll cover much more ground that way and you'll remember the people better, I think.
and you can double up on the sweet swag. If they got a really cool item like that botanist, one, Dustin can get one. You can all do that.
I love that's where your mind went. That doubles my swag.
Did you not see my parents? I brought my parents to the Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit. First time my parents went to a cannabis conference, just to kind of put MJ BizCon in perspective, because everyone pictures, and Vegas has adult use, so it's a little bit more, but they picture this overwhelmingly, like when you walk in the door of the facility, like a smoke machine concert, like fog is going to roll out and it's just nothing but a Grateful Dead concert happening. And my dad, who is 40 plus years of being a salesperson in an industry, was like, oh, it's kind of like my trade shows, just different products. They still got fly swatters and chapsticks. And so I'm like, yes, it's the same thing. They just have products themed to it. I think a part, if you're going to a place, especially like MJ BizCon, Nikki and Dustin, is to know what you're there for, right? To kind of Dustin's point, if you're there to network and meet people, then probably is best to hang out at the after parties and the shows. If you're there to learn about cool new products that these MSOs have and you want to walk through and get your swag bag full of all goodies, then you got to hit the trade floor. I like to, and I used to be like a floor walker kind of person, but I've come to realize, similar to what you're talking about, a lot of the great stuff at these conferences is the panels and the speakers. Like, I feel like that's something that I always wanted to go to the booths and see what's new and hot. But to your point, Dustin, it is, and I've done this, sales pitch, next. I mean, it's like a next, there we go, pitch you, versus the speakers and the panels, especially hearing from 3-4 people on a very specific topic. Can be both enlightening. It can be a networking event, but I have found a lot of joy from going to those. Do you hit the panels up? Do you go to the speakers? What do you like to do when you go check those out, Nikki?
At MJ BizCon, it's $1,200 a ticket versus $500 for my porch.
Yes.
I'm going for the $500.
There's that too.
I love going to speaker sessions. In Ohio, it was bad because the speakers were just boom, 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 boom. And you didn't get a chance to, go in between because they were so many that were really good. They were really strong people. I mean, Lenny Berry did a great job at that summit. Go with Lenny.
Yes. It really was awesome.
The Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit. It's a lot of initials. But it's really was, I love the passion of the Ohio advocates. I mean, they're balls to the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys are going to get that vote, that number 2, whatever.
Yeah, issue number 2. I was going to say, as someone who, and let's talk about this for a little bit. Like, you're in New York. You have, New York's storied as maybe one of the most oddest kind of transitions from medicinal to adult use, had a lot of issues there, but no one goes easily. Right? States like South Dakota get their adult use shut down by the government. Multiple states, everyone gets it, but it eventually, but it is problematic. And so Ohio is thinking about it. We have issue 2 coming up here. Let's see, about a week or so from right now, November 7th. Make sure you get out there and vote yes on issue number 2.
Yes.
Vote yes. So we have that coming up. For someone like yourself, you've been through it, and New York's a tough one. What type of, I guess, maybe advice or thoughts, or someone who's seen states now, multiple states go through this medicinal to adult use? The cannabis advocates here, and we love them. Dustin and I know all of them, or a lot of them. They're very excited. But I am, a bit of a pessimist sometimes when it comes to this, Nikki. I do think it'll pass, but it's not an easy road, particularly with a government that doesn't want it. Our leadership at this time doesn't want legal cannabis. They've talked about fighting it. I don't know if they will or won't because the money, but they're not exactly arms wide open here, right? They're not like, come on in, stoners, we love you. They're not even our state up north neighbors like Michigan, who have really seemingly embraced their adult use. Just what are we going to face in Ohio if it happens? What are some of your concerns? What should we be on the lookout for? What have you learned or seen as states transition from medicinal to adult use? Some of the things you like, don't like in that you've seen so far.
Get involved. I mean, I'm talking real involved. I'm not talking like just vote yes. I'm talking when they have rallies, when they have things that are happening, make your face known. Everyone knows me because of the polka dots, because cannabis connects my dots. Now they will know the polka dot lady is passionate for adult use for Ohio. And you are right. You are up against a big ass mountain, man. I mean, you got a dude that is so in the just say no era, it's not even funny.
His face, Mike DeWine's face, there's a picture of him signing the hemp bill in 2019, Senate Bill 57, when, they followed the U.S. Agricultural Farm Bill and they legalized 0.3% less in Ohio. His face is like, it's so disgruntled. He's got all these folks around him and they're all part of these cannabis advocates and they're all kind of smiling and clapping. And he looks like Scrooge McScrooge a lot. He's signing it, but it's like, he's like almost like his hand is being forced to sign Senate Bill 57 into action. It was funny. Like he signed it, but he still, you could see he didn't want that. And he clearly, and just not just him, doesn't want adult use here in Ohio.
No. And so like, that's a big thing, but the only way you're going to change that is back to everyone's trying to do their own little island thing. Hell, have one organization that's fighting for the citizens' rights of Ohio for adult use. You don't need 7. Okay. I get the different parts of the state, but you know what? If you got all the parts of the state in one central location, guess what? Now you got
them all. Exactly. It's really not a hard thing.
More people. I got a brain injury, people. This is like not rocket science, but we're diluting the message by trying to be little town focused. You know what I mean? Like include everyone. Like in New York City compared to Western New York, where I live in Buffalo, compared to the city, the amount of events, the amount of education, the amount of people involved in, helping remove the stigma is light and day. Like there is nothing upstate compared to like it is downstate. When you see all those cool parties and the sex museum and the weed museum and the, this event, that event, cool con bud opening, Turp Brothers opening, all that is nowhere near me. Nowhere. That is 8 hours away and traffic hell. That is not as bad.
Cost me $50 just to get across the bridge. I mean, it's not even. I'm already.
I also just learned today that Buffalo is 8 hours from New York. I also did not know. It takes 8 hours to get from Buffalo to New York City.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
wow,
I mean, that's on a good traffic day. Like, it's not easy. Like, it's not. Yeah, I mean, you can fly way faster, but then if you're going to Manhattan, you've got an hour cab ride, and that just takes it up another $100 each way. So, you gotta like. That $200 flight, oh, that's not bad, turns into the $400 flight before you do anything. So being an advocate, one has to be very aware of these, budget constraints. And I don't know why I brought all that up, but
it actually brings up another point, which is you are a patient and you do a lot of traveling, and this medicine is absolutely critical to your function. How is it like for you to be traveling? Because it's getting better. It's very rarely that I get off the plane and I usually can't get my medicine somewhere by just getting off the plane. But it still happens, and that is an extraordinary thing for me to have to navigate as someone who just can't walk the next day if I don't have my medicine. How do you navigate that? How do you maintain the level that you need to, and you're advocating in a state that doesn't even have, adult
Well,
use or medical use?
that is an outstanding question, Dustin, because it's something that I fight for everywhere I go when I'm at a political level, and that is reciprocity. What that means is you got a medical card in New York, it is now recognized in Ohio. Because at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want to go to the gray market and potentially have that plus or minus variance on my untested product. So I would feel much more comfortable going to a botanist in Ohio than I would the gray market. Nothing against that. I'm just saying, for me personally, because I do use it medicinally, I want to know what I'm consuming.
Hmm.
And ideally, I want a COA with what I'm consuming. And that is like pulling teeth here in New York. I don't know what it's like in Ohio, but it's literally like mystery bud, pretty
It's
much.
more, we have a bigger issue in Michigan. Like when I go to a lot of the adult use dispensaries, I'm literally signing a paper that says this product has not been tested. And, it is just, it feels so weird walking into a thing with that aura of medical, but they're
Yeah.
literally telling me
You
like
have
it
to
could
sign a
have anything.
waiver. That's
Yes,
terrible.
it's ridiculous.
'Cause
And
I would
I've
say too.
also been,
Good.
I remember before Vegas fully moved over, and Vegas does recognize Ohio cards, so it was
Yes.
one of the very first states where that I could experience that. But prior to that, I was landing and calling a guy off Craigslist, and the guy would have to drive and pick me up and give me, my smoke for the week, and then drop me off in a weird ass spot, and it was just awkward and scary and very, very difficult to make sure that I could maintain myself over the next week there. And so yeah, I
Like
totally get that.
you, like you, I depend on my medicine every day. And when I depend on it every day, I will not go to a state where I can't get it or where I don't have a friend that can get medical cannabis for me. So I went to Florida during my medical mystery tour of 2018 and trying to find a diagnosis. It was like ridiculous. I was out of state, out of country. It was insane. So when I was going to Florida, I had now found plant relief and I had access to it now in New York. And I called a dude that was in one of my brain injury groups, and I'm like, dude, you got to hook me up. And so in Florida at the time, they had these stupid pod things that were these plastic, impossible to break things. And so you're smoking plastic. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the most messed up system ever. But my condition does not recognize whether it's in New York and it's legal, whether I go into New Jersey and I don't have a
Right.
card, or Pennsylvania, they're definitely not. But crossing state lines, if I bring my medicine from New York, I am in federal violation. So the answer to your question is I don't travel where I can't get medicine. I don't speak at any engagement that doesn't have access to medicine and where I can medicate prior to speaking. Because if I don't speak, medicate prior to speaking, I'm all over the place. I mean, I think you guys can agree. I mean, I maybe veer a little bit, but I always come back to the main point.
You're way more focused than I am.
Much
so I'll
better
give you
than
that.
us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're perfect.
But I'm saying it's because I medicated with the right product. And if I can't do that prior to getting on a stage in front of 500,000, 2,000 people, I don't feel real comfortable. And so where were we? We were in New York City at an event, and we'd go to a bar, and like people in this part of town, they look like they got two sheriffs for fucking 4 square miles. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
do. That's a great.
like
Yeah, I think we all get you exactly what you.
we're literally like outside this bar, and like we're like, should we do it? And so and so we did, and nobody said anything, and it was all cool, but it was just such a weird feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like you just didn't feel like that was going to be accepted where we were. and you don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know. And so, like, for me, it's always like a dirty thing for me to smoke in front of children. I mean, like, I'm a pediatric nurse. I come from, like, I got a grandbaby. And so when I'm in New York City and the whole little kindergarten class comes walking by, immediately I'm like,
Yes, that's me. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
Like,
blow up that smoke. Don't
smoke's
exhale.
like billowing out the corner. Nothing here.
Exactly. But, like, I mean, 20 of us smoking. It's not just one of us, right? And so I haven't gotten over that whole thing yet. It's a little weird that I brought that up.
I don't think that's weird at all. I have that same thing. I think we're still, Dustin and I have talked about this a lot. We're both parents and we try to be responsible cannabis consumers. And I don't think being a responsible cannabis consumer with any medical condition is rolling up all four windows and hotboxing your kids out. Like, I just, I don't think that's a thing. So I think we're all, okay, I just give them the gummies like at the beginning of the show. That's how we do it. Then kids don't like smoke anyway. Give them something yummy. Just kidding. Don't give that to your other adults.
Do not do that. That is not.
No one's, and first of all, Dustin, we've already established no one's clearly doing that. And we are not the influencers as much as we'd like to be. We're talking with Nikki Lawley, nickyandtheplant.org, the links below, canmar.io, as well as cannabisbpo.com down there. And American Safe Access. We've added that to the comments below as well. Nikki Lawley, it's been amazing talking to you. I don't want to let you go yet, but it's been really fun speaking with you because of your openness. And I think that sometimes, I just love the vibe, the polka dots, the whole thing you got going on. So props to you for establishing a good quality brand in there. But what I think is interesting, Nikki, is even at these cannabis conventions and even with the cannabis folks, there are some people who still precariously kind of walk in the cannabis world, right? And I think that's what makes that final piece of advocacy tough. Like, I'm at a spot right now, Nikki. I am all for issue 2 right now. But I live in an area that I don't know if I can put issue 2 sign in my front yard, right? Like, I got neighbors and I feel judgment. I do, but there's a lot of vote no's judgment down here and I judge them, but I'm not, they're not judgy. So it's a hard thing sometimes. Like, I want to do it, but you have both that. And I talk about this a lot on the show. You don't know this, but my wife works in the school. I got 3 children in the school. Like, clearly I got a freaking podcast with cannabis in the name. So I'm not like
and a homeless guy that you do.
But I'm also, when I go pick up my kids, if I'm wearing the cannabis shirt, I might zip up the hoodie because I just don't want to deal with it. So how do you recommend folks, maybe like me in the middle, where you want to be this advocate and you have this ability, but the reality, right? We have jobs. People need to protect their jobs here in Ohio. And Ohio still, even if they go adult use, probably will test. Like, we have this motion or this notion of it's free and it's nice. And in this circle, and the 3 of us talking and the people that are listening to the show and at the cannabis conventions at NJ BizCon, no one's like saying, hey, be careful with your weed. It is smoke it if you got it all day, right?
All day.
But that's not the real world sometimes. Like,
No.
that's not the real world. So advice for advocates who want to be, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard to put your neck out. How can they maybe go and do some things? What advice would you have for those folks who want to help, but they just don't know how because they can't put a face to it, right? They can't come out of their cannabis closet yet.
So I understand that. And that's a great question because there are a lot of people exactly like you, maybe not just in Ohio, but all across this country. And they might be using cannabis every day for a condition that they have, but they've never even told their doctor because they're afraid to be doctor shamed. Mm-hmm. So I 100% understand the dilemma of these people. And I'm not telling anyone to venture out of their comfort zone or put their jobs at risk or anything of that nature. But at the end of the day, you have a chance to vote. Because of your vote, a decision can be made based on if you and like others pull together. And if that's an anonymous group on Facebook, if that's a where you send a letter, like Marijuana Moment always has those letter writing campaigns. I mean, do you really think Chuck Schumer is going to know who BC Women is?
I hope so. I'm working on it. Gosh darn, I hope so.
I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean it like the average American's aim is not going to be recognized and they're going to say, oh my God, that guy's wife's a teacher. And
get me and T Swift. My goal is to get to T Swift level of like cannabis. So we have that awkward conversation. I'll get there someday, Nikki.
Well, and you know what? I hope I'm right beside you, BC, because I'll
You'll be
listen.
there
You
first.
there,
I'll be
brother?
riding those polka dotted coattails.
I wouldn't go there. But together we're so much stronger, right? It's not about me or you or Dustin. It's about us together. It's about a community that works together, believes in each other, and aligns as best as they can despite diversity and maybe differences of opinion. And I don't know how else to say it. If you don't vote, you can't complain about it not being passed. If you don't vote for issue 1, you can't blame it for being passed or not passed. Like you have to be involved because each one of our votes matter. Each one of our contributions to social media matters. Our stories matter because at the end of the day, if I can change one person's life by helping them not feel as threatened by the plant and help them guide them to the plant and the right way to use it, whether it's through episodes like this, whether it's through printed articles, whatever that medium is that they respond to, I'm trying to bring the plant to them where they don't have to ask, oh my God, what's a bong? Oh my God, what's a pipe? What's a vaporizer? What's the difference between a Pax and a Mighty? What's the difference between,
Yep.
I mean, like these are things we're not talking about. Having an immersion education experience where you literally have raw terpenes and you explain, there's this terpene does this for you. And like we have our,
Yes.
Nikki and the Plant Guide for all the
Look at that.
terpenes.
Which
That's
I
awesome.
got with my version of Courage and Cannabis. So
Very
thank you
nice.
very, very much for including that with
Very
it because it
nice.
is awesome.
That's
It's a
awesome.
great, great reference. You can go to my website, Nikki Lawley and nikkiandtheplant.org, and it's under the resources or education tab. So you can download your own, or you can even have it customized with your business card on the front instead of mine.
No snap. Because Cannabis Terpene Guide's coming soon to a conference near you. I love it.
So it's really a great education piece, and people keep it and they remember me because of the dots. Because why? Cannabis connects the dots, baby.
Cannabis connects the dots. Nikki Lawley, nikkiandtheplant.org. It has been, you're awesome. Like it has been a blast talking with you. It has been a vibrant, fresh air, man. I love it. This is some enthusiasm. We need more guests with this type of energy on the show. Nikki Lawley, nikkiandtheplant.org, canmart.io, Cannabis BPO, Americans for Safe Access. All those links, including your social media, Nikki, will be in the comments below. Obviously, MJ BizCon. If you're around there at the end of November, you're going to find Nikki walking around. Look for the polka dots. Connect the dots. She'll be on the porch. She'll know where she's at. She'll be the one with all the people around her trying to give her hugs for that. If I'm there, we'll run
Thank
into
you
each other.
so
Maybe
much
just
for doing this with us today. You are just absolutely awesome. Every single time I get to see you and talk to you, you're just amazing across the board. So thank you.
You're such a rock star. You guys, you're making me blush and shit. Like, I'm just me, and you guys are just you, and together we're going to make good shit happen. So thank you guys for having me on the show, and thank you for all you do to bring awareness and help remove the stigma from the cannabis.
Thank you so much, Nikki. All right, we're going to say goodbye to Nikki. Thank you very much. Nikki Lawley, nikkiandtheplant.org. Make sure you check that out. Subscribe to the show, folks. I should have probably said that in the beginning. Hopefully you're still here. Every week, every Wednesday, 4:20 p.m., shows like this. You never know the type of folks. We had Alex Sandor from Lighthouse Science last week, Nikki Lawley this week. Who knows who's coming on? Subscribe right now. Follow us at MeetWM to find out all the good stuff, when the shows are. Lots of great new YouTube shorts and stuff. We're rolling out brand new stuff right now available on Because Cannabis. Be sure to check it out. All the new video offerings we have out. Budding Minds available right now. Make sure you check that out. Episode 1. We'll talk about that more in the future. Dustin Kava, fantastic to see you again. As always, Because Cannabis, every Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. YouTube and Spotify and anywhere you listen to audio podcasts. See you next week, Dustin.
Stay the hell away from my mounds.